Ethiopian Airlines Flight 302 was a scheduled international passenger flight from Addis Ababa Bole International Airport in Ethiopia to Jomo Kenyatta International Airport in Nairobi, Kenya, on 10 March 2019. The Boeing 737 MAX 8 aircraft which operated the flight crashed near the town of Bishoftu 6 minutes after takeoff, killing all 157 people aboard. Flight 302 is Ethiopian Airlines' deadliest accident to date, surpassing the fatal hijacking of Flight 961 resulting in a crash near the Comoros in 1996. It is also the deadliest aircraft accident to occur in Ethiopia, surpassing the crash of an Ethiopian Air Force Antonov An-26 in 1982, which killed 73. This was the second MAX 8 accident in less than 5 months after the October 2018 Lion Air Flight 610 crash in Indonesia. It prompted a worldwide long-term grounding of the jet and investigation of how the aircraft was approved to service. The aircraft was a Boeing 737 MAX 8, registered at AVJ manufacturer's serial number 62450. Powered by 2 CFM International LEAP-1B engines. The aircraft was manufactured in October 2018 and delivered on 15 November 2018, making it around 4 months old at the time of the accident. It had flown from Johannesburg, South Africa as ET-858 the night prior. The captain of the plane was Yard Getachew, 29. Who had been flying with the airline for almost 9 years and had logged a total of 8,122 flight hours, including 4,120 hours on the Boeing 737. He had been a Boeing 737-800 captain since November 2017, and Boeing 737 MAX since July 2018. At the time of the accident, he was the youngest captain at the airline. The first officer, Ahmed Noor Mahamoud Noor, 25, was a recent graduate from the Airlines Academy with 361 flight hours logged, including 207 hours on the Boeing 737. Flight 302 was a scheduled international passenger flight from Addis Ababa to Nairobi. The aircraft took off from Addis Ababa at 8:38 local time with 149 passengers and 8 crew on board. 1 minute into the flight, the first officer, acting on the instructions of the captain, reported a flight control problem to the control tower. 2 minutes into the flight, the plane's MCAS system activated, pitching the plane into a dive toward the ground. The pilots struggled to control it and managed to prevent the nose from diving further. But the plane continued to lose altitude. The MCAS then activated again, dropping the nose even further down. The pilots then flipped a pair of switches to disable the electrical trim tab system, which also disabled the MCAS software. However, in shutting off the electrical trim system, they also shut off their ability to trim the stabilizer into a neutral position with the electrical switch located on their yokes. The only other possible way to move the stabilizer would be by cranking the wheel by hand. But because the stabilizer was located opposite to the elevator, strong aerodynamic forces were pushing on it, as the pilots had inadvertently left the engines on full takeoff power, which caused the plane to accelerate at high speed. There was further pressure on the stabilizer. The pilots' attempts to manually crank the stabilizer back into position failed. 3 minutes into the flight, with the aircraft continuing to lose altitude and accelerating beyond its safety limits, the captain instructed the first officer to request permission from air traffic control to return to the airport. Permission was granted, and the air traffic controllers diverted other approaching flights. Following instructions from air traffic control, they turned the aircraft to the east, and it rolled to the right. The right wing came to point down as the turn steepened. At 8:43, having struggled to keep the plane's nose from diving further by manually pulling the yoke, the captain asked the first officer to help him, and turned the electrical trim tab system back on in the hope that it would allow him to put the stabilizer back into neutral trim. However, in turning the trim system back on, he also reactivated the MCAS system, which pushed the nose further down. The captain and first officer attempted to raise the nose by manually pulling their yokes. But the aircraft continued to plunge toward the ground. The aircraft disappeared from radar screens and crashed at almost 8:44. 6 minutes after takeoff. Flight tracking data showed that the aircraft's altitude and rate of climb and descent were fluctuating. Several witnesses stated the plane trailed white smoke and made strange noises before crashing. The aircraft impacted the ground at nearly 700 miles per hour. There were no survivors. It crashed in the Werda wide, 120 feet long, and wreckage was driven up to 30 feet deep into the soil. Wreckage was strewn around the field along with personal effects and body parts. Shortly after the crash, police and a firefighting crew from a nearby Ethiopian Air Force base arrived and extinguished the fires caused by the crash. Police cordoned off the site.